After the initial procedures, if the defendant has decided to plead not guilty or they have not been able to reach a plea bargain along the way, they will go through the trial process. We will talk about the trial process and what happens there. As a result of the trial, the jury will find that the defendant is either guilty or not guilty, in which case an acquittal will be granted. If the defendant is found to be guilty and they do not contest that finding, they will proceed on to the sentencing phase and then to serve out whatever their punishment may be. If the defendant finds or argues that there is some sort of legal error in the process of the trial, they may appeal. The prosecution does not have that same right to appeal, but if the defendant finds that there is some legal error, they may go through the appellate process. The final thing that I'll talk about today are the people who are involved in the prosecutor's office. Now, when we talk about a criminal trial or the criminal proceedings, there's obviously the defendant. The person who represents the defendant is called the defense attorney. The person who represents the state is called the prosecutor or the district attorney. In the prosecutor's office, there is the lead prosecutor or the lead district attorney, but there are also, who is an attorney, but there are also attorneys who work within that office who are assistant DAs or assistant prosecutors. Those are the attorneys who handle the cases and represent the state. There are some paralegals in the prosecutor's office, however, there are not a lot. The whole idea behind a paralegal is that you are able to bill at a certain rate and able to bill at a lower rate than attorneys typically can, and that's where paralegals really become very valuable as a money-making tool as well as a service to our clients. Additionally, paralegals are not as commonly used in the criminal prosecution side of things because the rates of pay that prosecutors get are not the equivalent of private practice. So we're already paying these prosecutors who are attorneys a pretty low rate, a rate that paralegals may already be getting out in the private sector. So there's no real advantage there to having a paralegal versus an attorney. Also in the prosecutor's office, you may have investigators who are helping find information, find evidence for the case. Certainly there are secretaries and there are interns who will be working in that office. Depending on the size of the geographic area and the amount of population, there may be special teams within the prosecutor's office. These are people who are used to prosecuting certain types of crimes. These crimes are serious crimes. They are crimes that require some specialization, or it's because there is such a high percentage of this type of crime in that particular area. There's no requirement that they have special teams such as this, but some of the common special teams that you may see are teams for child molestation, narcotics, domestic violence, white-collar crime because of the complexity, and then child support. From my own experience, I can let you know that in some local areas here, we do have certain prosecutors who will go through and will handle things like child molestation. But in those offices, those cases are so difficult for people to handle that they only allow them to serve 6 months at a time, and they will rotate that attorney out because it is very trying emotionally for those types of cases. It's the rare person who's able to stay there, stay there long term and not get burnt out. So you will see a rotating basis within the prosecutor's office that some will handle child molestation cases or abuse cases for a set period of time, and then 6 months later they'll be handling the child support or something else. I have a friend who is in the prosecutor's office, and he went from child molestation to capital crimes where there's murder and homicides involved, and says murder, homicide is much easier to handle than the child molestation and child abuse cases that he was seeing. So it takes its toll on the prosecutor's office as well. That's why if there are these ability to have these special teams, they will rotate prosecutors through. This is the end of the videos for you guys to watch. I will see you in class on Friday.